You've seen this graph before. Almost every successful content creator you can think of has had these two moments in their story. The moment they started, which was probably years ago, and then a long stretch where they were creating, they were showing up, they were putting in the work, but nothing much was moving. And then the inflection point where everything changed super fast. So what actually causes this moment? Hey, if you're a coach making somewhere between $5,000 and $30,000 a month, and your content is getting attention, but it's not turning into clients, you're probably following a strategy designed to make someone else rich. Not you, the platform, or the influencer who taught it to you. And that mistake is quietly killing the growth of thousands of coaches right now because coaches are playing a completely different game. Influencers chase views, coaches need trust. Influencers monetize attention, coaches monetize transformation. 6 months ago, I realized something, and it was something I really didn't like. My own coaching program had drifted too close to the influencer playbook. That realization happened after I flew all the way to Sydney, spent 8 hours teaching, and walked off stage with 0 sales. I'll tell you what happened there in a second, but first we need to understand the real problem. You see, most coaches start content the same way. You decide you want to build authority online, you want inbound clients, you want to stop relying on referrals, so you look at who is winning online. Big followings, millions of views, huge engagement, and you copy what they do. Which seems to make sense until you realize that those people are playing a completely different business model. So here's how it works. Influencers need attention, coaches need authority. Those look similar on the surface, but the strategies are completely different between the two. And I learned that lesson the hard way. About a year ago, I made a video and it went viral. It got about 500,000 views and it was really addicting. On Instagram, I'm there refreshing the feed. I'm seeing it go to 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, and it kept climbing. And my ego was full, but my pipeline was not. What was happening was I made this video about AI on my phone. It was really fun, but it got me absolutely 0 results. In fact, when I looked at the statistics, the vast number of people who were following me or watching the video and liking and sharing it were stay-at-home Pakistani mothers. And I'll tell you what, these people will never ever pay for my coaching program or enter my systems. So while my numbers looked impressive, my business didn't. And that's when I realized something. Going viral and getting clients are not the same thing. So it was about 6 months ago when I flew to Sydney. I went to the University of New South Wales. It was a beautiful venue. There was a room full of business owners and I spent 8 hours teaching and sharing from that stage everything I know about content creation, about branding. And I'll tell you what, I had a room full of engaged business owners. They were all taking notes, they were nodding. So at the end of my 8-hour talk, I made an offer to join my coaching program. Then someone raised their hand and they asked me one question. They said, "Is that in US dollars?" Sorry if I butchered the accent, but I answered yes. And I could just feel the energy in the room just dropped. People who were leaning in, they started leaning back. People who had huge smiles, it just kind of faded a little bit. And about 60 seconds later, I realized I was gonna walk away with 0 sales. That moment forced me to rethink everything. And when I got back to Tokyo from Sydney, I analyzed my data and I was looking at who was making the most progress and who was doing the best inside of my programs. And that's when I noticed a pattern. You see, the fastest implementers were the coaches. The biggest revenue jumps came from professional coaches. The clearest connection between content and revenue came from my clients who were professional coaches. Sarah spent $2,000 on ads and generated $42,000 in recurring revenue. Alex added $54,000 in recurring revenue using organic content. And Craig added another $66,000 in recurring revenue. What do they have in common? They were all coaches, which forced me to admit something that was a little uncomfortable. If I kept going on trying to help everybody, then eventually I'd end up helping nobody. And something had to change. The program had to be rebuilt specifically for coaches. But the Sydney event didn't end with 0 sales because I refused to leave that room empty-handed. So I did something different. You see, what happened was when I was on that stage, I pulled out my phone, I took a selfie with everybody in the room, and I went back and looked at that photo and I remembered the faces of the people in the background. And I recognized people, the people who I was engaging with, the people who were taking the notes, nodding, and really implementing as I was teaching. And I went and showed that photo to the organizer and I said, "Who's that? Who's that?" And I got a list of names and I went back, I printed out a new offer. What I did is I changed the currency so it's localized. I dropped the price because I could not walk away with 0. And I printed out a new offer, something that was tailored for the people in that room. That's based on what I learned about them over the 8 hours. And I approached them one by one by one. And through conversation, and after having seen me present content on that stage for a full day, I went home with 18 new clients who'd signed on to my coaching program. So here's the lesson I learned. What felt normal in the US as far as pricing felt completely wrong in that room. Different currency, different expectations, different context. And once I had 18 people committed to my program with cash paid on the spot, something clicked for me right there. The right clients were already in the room. The problem wasn't the audience. The problem was the translation. I was speaking my language, not theirs. It was a different currency, different context, different buying psychology. And the moment I had repackaged that exact transformation in a way that matched how they think, everything changed. And the exact same thing is happening to coaches online every single day. You're not failing because people aren't interested. You're failing because your message isn't aligned with the way your audience actually makes decisions. And once I saw that clearly, I could finally explain the real problem, because every single coach that is struggling with content is actually dealing with one of three very specific problems. Number one is nobody knows you. You're good at what you do, but outside of your network, you're invisible. And the next one is nobody cares. People see your content, but it doesn't create desire. And the third one is nobody buys. People like you, they follow you, but revenue doesn't follow. This is probably the most frustrating place to be in. And here's the important thing. These problems, they're sequential. You can't fix nobody buys until you fix nobody cares. You can't fix nobody cares until you fix nobody knows you. Most coaches try to attack all three of these randomly, which is why their effort never actually compounds. And this exact problem right here is why I created the Chosen Coach program. And the best way to understand it is something I call the Chosen Coach model. There's 5 stages. They run from the base to the top. First, you got cadence. You have to actually put in the reps. On top of cadence is confidence. On top of confidence is competence, proficiency, then authority. And way at the very top, outside of the triangle, is chosen. You get chosen. You see, the goal is not visibility. The goal is to become the coach that gets chosen every single time as the only logical choice in your field. Most coaches, they get stuck somewhere inside the middle of this triangle. They've got cadence and they're posting, they're showing up, but the content hasn't yet produced real authority, and that's because this triangle has 3 sides with 3 problems and 3 specific solutions. On side 1, the problem is nobody knows you, and what we need is an audience. Inside the Chosen Coach model, we solve this with something called the Audience Accelerator. Inside of it has 3 components. There's the invite ad. It attracts new people who are your ideal future customers, not random people in other parts of the world who will never buy from you. We have a $5 per day campaign, which amplifies that strategy, and we have systems to track so you know exactly where people are in the pipeline and how to get them to the next logical stage. The goal here is not mass reach, and definitely not to go viral. The goal is reaching the right people and getting them into your world. On side 2, the problem is that nobody cares. And we solve this with something called the engagement engine. And it's got 3 main things. We've got production, we've got planning, and we've got 4-week campaigns. You see, most coaches who I meet are stuck in something I call hand-to-mouth content creation. You post today, you post tomorrow, you post again the next day, and by the end of a month, you're burnt out and you've got nothing to show for it. Nothing builds. You're just in this constant cycle. You get burnt out, and then you stop and you fall off the rails. The 4-week campaigns fix that. You plan content and strategic themes. Every video reinforces the same idea and the campaign leads toward a decision moment. You stop acting like an influencer and you start thinking like a strategist. Now, across the bottom, the problem is that nobody is buying, and what we need is a system. And the system that we use inside of the Chosen Coach model is called the Dead Simple Funnel. It's got 3 basic things in it. You've got the skinny lead magnet, you've got speed to lead, and you have the 10-step VSL ladder. The skinny lead magnet is going to solve one specific problem from A to Z, all the way. The speed to lead automation is going to use some AI to make sure that you respond instantly. There's a ton of research that proves that the faster you respond to a lead and get them into a conversation, the more likely they are to convert. So what's a VSL? It stands for Video Sales Letter. It's the decision mechanism, and it explains your thinking, your offer, and it's a little like this video right now, the one you're watching, because what you're watching right now is built on the exact same model. The hook, the problem, the framework, the invitation. This isn't just a video about the model. This is the model running itself. And when all 3 sides of the triangle work together, something powerful happens. You stop chasing clients and clients finally start choosing you. Now, let me tell you one more reason why I believe that systems are much more important than having talent. The first time I ever presented online, I was terrified. I had sweaty palms, my heart was racing. I asked my wife and my son to stand in the room there with me so I wouldn't feel alone and scared. But I had a framework, right? And I followed it. And that presentation made sales. That's the lesson. You don't need talent. What we need is a system. Remember this, the hardest working coach in the room chases clients. The most respected coach attracts them. The difference is authority, and authority can be engineered. If this is resonating with you so far, then what you're probably starting to see is this. It's not that your content isn't working. It's that there's this gap between your real expertise and how your expertise is being perceived. And until that gap is fixed, content will always feel inconsistent. It's going to feel random, and it won't turn into clients the way that it should. So instead of asking you right now to join anything, the next step is actually much simpler. I want to invite you to book what I call an authority audit. On this call, we're going to look at your content, and we're going to break down where you're currently at inside of this system. And we're going to identify exactly what's missing, whether that's nobody knowing you, nobody caring, or nobody buying from you. And more importantly, we're going to map out what needs to change for your content to actually start driving client conversations, which is the whole point. So here's how it makes sense. Some people take that plan and they implement it all by themselves. Other people, they decide they want help building it out. Either way is totally fine, but you are going to leave that session with a super clear plan. So if you want clarity on where you are and what your next move should be, there's a link below. You can book your authority audit there.